To draw the line, I feel like there's several. I mean, there's very different kinds of movies out there. It's definitely a spectrum. But if you look at Baby Driver specifically, I think the conclusion you come to, there are really good movies out there that are beautifully executed and written, and just kind of all throughout. And then there's terrible movies as well that are neither one of those things. And right in between, there are movies that are really good and are worth watching, but you can learn from them, which is why I like to describe that as learning experience. So there's good movies, and there's learning experience.
The Baby more Driver, you know.
Yes, and The Baby Driver is absolutely an extremely pleasant learning experience to watch.
Hello everybody, this is Last Minute Movies, and this is our final episode for Season 1. Season 1, I guess you could say so. Yay!
Yeah, it's a pretty big milestone.
We finished it. We've finally done Season 1. What an accomplishment. And today we're going to be talking about a bit of a weird film to be leaving on our final episode of this season. This is a film that really could get a lot of analysis done in it, and that's Baby Driver. Directed by Edgar Wright and stars so many talented people that we'll get to, like Ansel Elgort, John Bernthal, Lily James, John Hamm, Jamie Foxx, Kevin Spacey. Anyways, so I guess we could talk about our first thoughts of how I first got introduced to this movie. So I hate to bring them up, but back before we found out all of the really bad shit. Let's just get it out of the way. The Kevin Spacey stuff. Back before I found out that all the Kevin Spacey stuff, I was a massive fan of his work. I really enjoyed him in American Beauty. I really enjoyed him in I know this is a bit of a weird movie, but I really liked his portrayal of Lex Luthor in Superman Returns. It was really good, I thought. And of course, House of Cards is a masterpiece. And his acting in that is fucking incredible. So I really was so this movie, the trailer came out, and I was like, okay, Kevin Spacey in a heist kind of film. This seems really kind of cool. And then the news came out, unfortunately, and then I got kind of depressed about all of that because I looked up to his acting a lot and to him, and I just didn't end up watching it because I was really disappointed about all of that. But here we are, years later. I'm like, I'll give this a watch and see what's up. And
After all, Kevin Spacey is not the only thing about that movie.
Yeah, he's not the only thing about that movie. There's a lot of other interesting things, good or bad, who knows. We'll get to that in this film. So, Igor, how did you get to know this film?
Here's the thing. I totally don't mind it. I think the film, with all of its intents and purposes, was pretty good. I think it kind of delivered the entertainment value to the audience, definitely. And it definitely has its really nice, quirky moments. And I would say editing is my favorite aspect of it, because I think the way the film is stitched together and pacing and has a really good sense of tone, a really good sense of these beats that go one into the other, all of these decisions that are being made during the editing process. Plus, I think about half of its budget went into buying copyright for the music, because the music is just incredible. I don't think I have seen a collection of music like that in any recent film that was just that vast, which was really nice. And I also haven't seen the film when it came out.
I can think of one. I hate it, but I can think of one film that did something.
Yeah, but we don't talk about that film. So music, editing, acting was good. Acting was good. It wasn't perfect, but I liked it. Overall, it delivered, but it did have problems that just I couldn't quite overlook, and it was mostly not the regular kind of viewer in me. It was more of a storyteller and kind of filmmaker talking that got really frustrated with certain parts of the movie, especially the ending. And
I feel that. Here, so before we get let's dive into this shit in clear infested water. It's both. So Igor, if you want to give us a basic plot and all that, I know you got your notes and all that, so give us the old rundown.
Basically, here's the thing about the story, and I thought I will talk about the frustrating part later, but I'm just gonna go ahead and let it out now because you know what? If a movie has a problem, we're gonna dwell on that shit.
Right.
Especially a movie that has that much money in it.
Yeah.
But okay, so this guy, and his name is Miles. It's not Baby. It's Miles, and I was okay if his name was Baby the whole time. I was just like, oh, that's weird, but okay, I'll roll with it. But okay, so his name is Miles. Miles works for this criminal boss played by Kevin Spacey, who basically asked him to be the driver at a whole bunch of different heist operations, starting from like mostly, I think they've been robbing banks for the most part. And doing some shady gun selling deals and things of that nature. But basically, Baby, also known as Miles, is a designated driver who drives really well, drives like a god. I gotta say, this movie actually has a really nice combination of these really good chase scenes that are edited beautifully and shot beautifully, combined with this really
beautifully as well.
Yes,
with the music,
yes.
yeah.
Oh my god, yes. Like, those sequences are totally to die for. And I gotta say, I noticed that towards the beginning of the film, kind of first half of the film, featured a lot of car porn, where like they're not chasing each other, they're just kind of pulling up to the parking lot in this very cinematic way, which I totally didn't mind. Like, I think it totally fit the theme of the movie. It wasn't overstepping itself in any way or form. But so Miles kind of gets in trouble, and there's a typical kind of plot where he's on his one last job before Kevin Spacey lets him off the hook and doesn't make him work for them anymore. And he works, he does the job, he does it well, but like something goes wrong and some shit blows up and people get killed, and it's just nice and action driven, and there's some interpersonal relationship between the members of the gang that are kind of getting into it. I'm just gonna give it a briefest overview possible because honestly, to me, that whole dynamic with the gang and people shooting each other, like, on one hand, it's a very nice kind of thing with the idea of life and death and like choices that this guy is making, like the fact that I'm just gonna call him Miles the whole time because that's one of the most frustrating things about the movie for me. Like,
he's so angry about that.
Yes, it's a really good name. I don't know why they didn't do it like sooner. Maybe they were hoping for a sequel or some shit. But like Miles makes a choice to steer his car out of the way before one of his companions shoots this guy and kind of saves his life. So he has like a humanitarian streak going on, even though he's doing a very much criminal work, but he doesn't kill people, he just drives a car and helps them escape. So it's kind of like a gray area, but he's still definitely a criminal. Now as the plot thickens, it turns out that Kevin Spacey is an asshole, and although he thought that would be his last job, so he's can settle with this new girl that he met at a diner place, and they go to this really fancy dinner to kind of celebrate the fact that he got the last gig. And they want to talk and chat and everything, and then Kevin Spacey is there.
Dating.
Yeah, now they're dating, and Kevin Spacey is there, and he like goes, "All right, you have one more job to do," and he's like, "I don't want to do it," and Kevin Spacey's like, "Yes, you do, because I will kill everyone you cared about." It's just like, oh well.
Yeah, it's that typical like one last job, but is it really like one last job? It's
exactly.
not one last job. He gets put back in until Kevin Spacey's character Doc says so. So that's basically like the brief the brief plot of the film. So I guess we could start talking about like some deeper story aspects to it and some good things. Let's just talk about some good things. So let's first talk about
before shit starts to hit the fan later in the story. Let's dissect what we just talked about.
Yeah, because it's always easier for us filmmakers to be critical assholes. So let's be nice first. Let's be nice. So let's talk about, I think the best aspect of the film is the editing and the music. So, obviously, I'm not too surprised that the film is edited and the music is good as it is. And the humor and the comedy works really well because this is an Edgar Wright film. And if you've never watched an Edgar Wright film before, I don't know what you're doing. You should immediately stop watching this video. Go watch any Edgar Wright movie. I highly recommend Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That is my favorite. It's one of the best movies of all time. And so this, it very much had his style in it. And I think that's something that's really good. As a filmmaker, you always want to leave behind your voice or your creative edge to the films that you make. And this is very much an Edgar Wright film, and it works so well because it's an Edgar Wright film. So you're able to look through like all the problems that the film actually has, because you appreciate the action and the comedy and the characters a lot. You know, they're pretty good characters. There's problems with how they're written, but they're good, likable characters for the most part. Like Miles, baby, he's a very likable character. Deborah, played by Lily James, is a very likable character. And Miles' adopted dad, Joseph, played by C.J. Jones, he's a very likable character. Person. He's probably the most likable guy.
He's just so good.
Yeah,
he's so good.
And so like Igor said, that the budget probably was spent a lot on the copyright music and all that, so that they could play it in the film. But the way they did it in the film was really cool. It wasn't like I'm gonna have to mention it, Igor, but it wasn't like Suicide Squad. It actually like made sense why he was playing the music and why he had it and why he timed it. Not only did he use it for the heist so that he could time specific movements and turns and all that kind of stuff, but he also had a disability. I forgot what it was called, but it helped. He got in a car accident that killed his parents when he was younger, and I forget what the specific...
Basically, I believe what they said is that it's a type of PTSD that he's having, which kind of like the music allows him to silence the bad thoughts in his head, prevents him to focus on them. But that's like one of the several explanations they gave throughout the movie.
So they brought that up, but then they brought up like other kind of stuff as well. There was one specific disability that he did have. I forgot what it was called, but I forgot what it was called, but he has to listen to music in order to like tune out specific sounds. So that's why he plays the music. So it is cleverly in there, and it also adds to his character a lot, because as he gets to know Deborah a lot, they share a lot in common, like the music that they listen to, and it helps them bond. And I think that was something that was really like, realistic and sweet and really, heartfelt and really cool. And not only that, but also the music that was played in the film also served a purpose to the story. So that was also a really good plus. So that was something that was really cool. However, and I think something else that really worked well was the acting as well. The actors their performances were all well done. Ansel Elgort was amazing. Lily James was amazing. I don't really know her too well, but one, she's really pretty, and two, she was good in this. I enjoyed her. She was a very likable person. John Hamm was like ridiculously awesome. He was hilarious. Isa Gonzalez was great. Jamie Foxx was great. John Bernthal was great. Kevin Spacey was great. C.J. Jones was great. Everyone was great. The performances were like pretty spot on. The cinematography was amazing. It was fast paced. It was well shot. The colors look good. The lighting was great. Technically, this film is like a masterpiece. Technically, it's fine. Like, and the acting is fine. It's just when you get to the writing, that is the biggest problem with this film, is the writing. And it goes to show you that writing is like the most important part of filmmaking, because like, let's talk about for a second like Game of Thrones, right? Like Game of Thrones, world-renowned show. Like one of the greatest shows of all time, biggest show of all time, easily, not even a contest. And everybody was mad at the 2 final seasons because the writing was bad.
Yes.
Everything technically was perfect, the acting was perfect in Game of Thrones, but the writing. So it's unfortunate, because when you have really good writing in a film, but all the other technical stuff is like not so good, you could kind of forgive it and be like, okay, well, at least the writing and the story is solid. But when all the technical stuff is good, but the writing is like kind of it's really kind of sticks out like a sore thumb.
And honestly, I think this film is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Like, you have really good concentration of skill and talent and money and, like, technical aspects of it. And, you spoke about acting, and I do think that every actor did a great job, but I do feel like that it kind of splits in a half simply because of writing. Some actors, would deliver their lines perfectly, and half the time I think they managed to make some lines that just did not work work because they were just cliche as hell. I can't really think of any from the top of my head, but like, just this general like, 60s, 70s mobster lingo that some of them use that is completely out of place, because they're trying to set it in the modern days. That just doesn't really work. It's not a period piece, but for some reason, a lot of the ways Kevin Spacey talked was like, an old-timer mafia boss, which to me just didn't quite marry. And I think while half the time he totally nailed it with the performance, he managed to kind of adapt this way of speaking into the character and make it look, proper and appropriate for the story and the way the story is set. But then half the time, with just old ass lines, and you can tell that he doesn't quite know what to do with it. And honestly, I'm gonna get to this one most frustrating thing about this film, the ending. They're in the elevator, he turns to them and he goes,
I was in love once.
And I'm just like, I am so not buying it, and it's not the acting, it's just shittily written.
So hold on. So I know like sometimes Igor gets frustrated, he kind of jumps the gun. So to give you some retrospective,
sorry.
to give you some retrospective, what we're talking about is that Ansel Elgort basically towards the end of the film, the heist goes to shit, everything goes wrong because Miles, he basically kind of fucks it all up and all that. And then he goes to Kevin Spacey's character, who basically like is running the operation. And then for some reason, Kevin Spacey's character decides to help him out, even though Baby fucked up his source of income. He should have every right to want to kill him and all that kind of stuff. Especially since earlier in the film, he threatened his life and all of his loved ones, including Deborah, his love interest.
Now, I don't think I need to give you the speech about what happens when you say no, how I could break your legs and kill everyone you love, because you already know that, don't you? Yeah.
And then he saw her and was like, oh, well, I was in love once. It's like, but when you last saw her, you threatened to kill her. It doesn't make any sense. And then he like basically sacrifices his life in order to save Baby and Deborah, because John Hamm, Buddy, he ends up going after them. So let's go back. Let's go back.
Yeah.
Basically, what happens throughout the film is that Ansel Elgort's character is getting like more and more. He wants to get out of being their driver and all that. He wants to get like a normal job and settle down with Deborah and all that kind of stuff. But basically, what happens is that he has this condition. It's called tinnitus, and basically, it's like this ringing in his ear. And he can only get rid of it when he's listening to music, right? So he has all these different tapes. And so then, Jamie Foxx's character, Bats, doesn't really like Baby for some reason. I don't know why. John Hamm's character does, and Eliza Gonzalez's character does, and all of that. But what ends up happening is that Jamie Foxx's character finds out that he has all these tapes and all of that. And so they knock him out, they break into his apartment, and then they show him all the tapes, and Baby's not like a rat or anything. He just like records people, and he likes making music and all that. He makes
the mixes out of it that he just keeps to himself.
Yeah, he makes mixtapes.
Was he slow? No. Good kid. Devil behind the wheel. Was he slow? Retarded means slow. Was he slow? No.
Which I think is kind of funny, actually.
Yeah.
And so then they go on that one last job and all of that. They rob this bank. They shoot a bunch of people. But Baby gets like really upset because he gets fed up with all of them. And so basically he rams the car into this spike, killing Jamie Foxx's character.
What? Now!
Then the police go after John Hamm's character and Buddy, and then Eliza Gonzalez's character shoot. And John Hamm and Eliza Gonzalez's character, they're like together. And
Wait. Just, to me, honestly, like, with the storytelling and the things that this movie did wrong, shish kebabbing that guy was so unexpected and so kind of out of the line. Yeah. I really enjoyed that moment. I was getting really kind of, not bored, but I was getting pulled out of it with all the kind of inconsistencies that the plot brought us to. And then that moment just like, kaboosh, oh my god, this guy, the scariest guy in the movie just got fucking shish kebabbed.
Yeah, he just got skewered. And so John Hamm and Eliza Gonzalez's character are together. Eliza Gonzalez gets fucking shot by the cops. And then John Hamm gets super upset and ends up going after Baby and Deborah and all of that. And they ask for Doc's help, Kevin Spacey's character. He decides to help them, and then John Hamm ends up killing Kevin Spacey's character. And then he's still trying to go after Baby and Deborah, like the fucking Terminator or something. Like he never gets injured. Like it's so weird. He gets like shot. He gets fucked up. He just keeps coming, and it's like, what the hell is happening? Like, I didn't know I popped in Terminator, for fuck's sake. And
No,
eventually,
deadass.
he ends up dying, and Baby gets arrested. Baby and Deborah try to make a run for it, and the cops pull him over. Baby ends up getting arrested, and then he goes to prison for like 5 years, and they like meet up, and then they like drive off together and all of that. And I guess that's another inconsistency with the plot, is that Deborah kind of just meets, and I know she like mentions like once like, oh, I'm kind of headstrong, I guess, but she just meets this guy, Baby. And you're ready to like risk it all and go to Mexico with him or some shit, and like run away. That kind of didn't make a lot of sense, you know?
Honestly,
I wish this film took like more, because I don't know how long this film took place. Maybe it took place within a couple weeks or something like that. But I feel like it could have taken place maybe within a year.
You see, I think the real problem here is really in the storytelling. Again, you know, that scene where they first meet each other at the diner and she seems to just develop a huge crush on him almost instantaneously, that didn't feel right to me. And I think, you're right. Like, we don't know if it's like a couple of days or a couple of weeks in the movie time, but the point is, I think it's something that even editing couldn't fix. Movie fails to communicate how much time has passed, and you know, we just don't really know enough about.
We don't get the time
Deborah.
skips. Yeah.
Yeah, and even like I don't even care. You know, they could totally make it 2 days. Just fill those 2 days with enough experiences between Baby and Deborah, because like I actually think they almost got it. Like what the acting was pulling it so well and making it so believable that it almost compensated for the flawed storytelling. Just to give it a little more clarity would be so much easier for me to actually empathize with them, because
if you wanted to do a time skip, it could have been interesting. And this is what I was thinking about. Like, it could have been kind of interesting that with each time skip there was, maybe his music changed. So maybe it was regular.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe, like, during Halloween, he was listening to a Halloween song, or Christmas, he was listening to Christmas music. I don't know, something like that. So we can find, like, a change in tone and atmosphere. Because it kind of just feels like this happened all within, like, 2 weeks, and she's ready to just risk it all. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And another thing that didn't really make sense about the film... And okay, so John Bernthal was in the film, and he was in it for like 1-2 scenes. The opening heist, and then the final, and then like he had one scene, and then he wasn't in the film at all. And I love John Bernthal, right? Like I'm like a massive Daredevil fan because I'm a huge fucking nerd, and I'm a massive Daredevil fan. I love the show. It's like, my opinion, the best MCU product ever. And dude, I love John Bernthal as the Punisher. He's fucking amazing. To see him kind of wasted in this was so disappointing. I thought he was going to have a bigger role. And then, like, John Bernthal's character and Jamie Foxx's character were, like, the same people. Okay. They were, like, the same guys. They had, like, they were talking, because they had, like, literally the same fucking lines. Like, John Bernthal originally was like talking shit to Baby, being like, why do you have your earbuds? Why do you have your earbuds in there? You know, you think you're a tough guy or whatever. And then Jamie Foxx's character is like the exact same way.
Yeah, but you're filming.
And I'm like, why are there two different characters who are like the same fucking character? Why don't you either John Bernthal is the crazy guy, or Jamie Foxx is the crazy guy? Just cut one of them, and either cut Jamie Foxx or cut John Bernthal. You can't have the same thing.
Here's my like major problem with it too. Like, just storytelling wise, like, right, putting two characters that are so similar to each other like that, like literally back to back in the beginning of the film, it kind of like, first of all, it diffuses this like sense of, you know, a present villain, because he has tension with both of them, and neither one of them has enough screen time to truly build it. I mean, like Fox kind of gets it later on, but at the beginning of the story, it just feels diluted because of that, because you have all of these characters and he has problems with all of them, but we're not focusing on any of them. So I guess the question is, where's the story? It's like, the music. I'm like, I don't really have time to think about it because of the pacing and all the other things, but you know, I think by the time we get to like 3/4 into the film, that's when we start to realize that, you know, there is no stable foundation conflict-wise.
Like
you can look at it from many ways.
Villains in this film. There's like,
and none of them really pays off.
Yeah, and it goes from John Bernthal, and then he gets cut in the beginning of the movie. We never see him again. And then it's Jamie Foxx's character, and then it's Kevin Spacey who threatens him, and then it's Jamie Foxx who's an asshole. And then you think John Hamm's the good guy and his girl are cool, but then like he kills Jamie Foxx, and then John Hamm and Isa Gonzalez become like bad people, bad guys, and then John Hamm tries to kill him, and then we go to Kevin Spacey. We're like, oh shit, Kevin Spacey's really gonna be bad, but then he becomes a good guy, and then John it's a fucking mess. Like, who's the bad guy? Like, in my opinion, this is what it should have been.
Yeah.
It should have been this, right? So here, Igor, let's fucking rewrite this movie.
all right. I have my own rewrite proposition here, so you go first.
So literally everything in the film is fine. The worst part of it, in my opinion, is the villains. Who the fuck is the villain? You have to have one centralized villain, because this is a fairly simplistic script in a fairly simplistic movie, but it's so weirdly complicated in who's the villain. So in my opinion, I don't know. Either have John Bernthal or Jamie Foxx be the villain. So let's just say, for example, okay, Jamie Foxx is going to be in the villain because he was the actual, he did more shit to Baby in the film. So you cut John Bernthal's character. Cut him. Get rid of him. Right? And then what you do is that when shit goes down, John Hamm helps out Baby, and then and his girl can die, but John Hamm's character, Buddy, can help out Baby. And then Kevin Spacey and Bats can just go and try to fuck up and kill Baby. I'm like, maybe 2 villains is fine, I guess, but I don't understand why Kevin Spacey's character would be the one to help Baby when they never had any kind of connection. Because John Hamm's character, Buddy and Baby, they had a bit of a connection. They had some banter. They were listening to music together, and you actually liked the relationship. And I thought that it was going to pay off by Buddy trying to help Baby and Deborah get out of the country to escape Kevin Spacey's character or Jamie Foxx's character. But no, instead, and Kevin Spacey could be a great bad guy. Again, House of Cards, you know, all these, Lex Luthor. You know, or Jamie Foxx's character...
literally real life.
Or literally real life, yeah. You know, and so Jamie Foxx's character can die earlier from getting spiked. That was cool. But then you can have Buddy help out Baby and Deborah while Kevin Spacey's going after them. That would have been way more simplistic. And so I feel the biggest problem with this film is that it really just needed a couple re-edits. Just a couple rewrites. That's all. You don't need to fundamentally change all this stuff in the script. I just feel just a couple edits and you would have had a solid movie. You know, it would have been been really, really good instead of just good. You know.
Yeah,
what do
totally.
You think?
You know, I'm thinking right now that I totally dig the way you're proposing it, because I actually think it does put things into places. Because Kevin Spacey is definitely kind of the most villainous villain, because he's the guy, you know, who just does the most shitty things. You know, he threatens people's lives directly, and other people do it too, but he has an ever-present thing because he's the boss.
Yes.
Which I think is a very nice way to channel it. But this was kind of my take on rewriting it.
Okay.
And it's kind of similar, but I feel by the end of the film, every villain, you know, the movie wants to treat everyone like a villain. And I think my favorite arc in the film was, there's kind of 2. It's Baby's own, you know, issue with the parents, because I actually think that the song that they used to kind of show his memory of his mother is the most beautiful thing ever. Yes. I think that was super awesome, and it makes for an incredible protagonist that is super heartfelt. And, you know, overcoming that, while also, you know, doing the whole thing that, you know, him and his adopted father, you know, are doing. You know, he should find a way to leave the life of crime. And that was actually the only kind of moving point for me, you know? It was the mother and the idea that I know for a fact that you cannot, you know, just leave life of crime in like a clean way. It's impossible. So here's my way of kind of focusing on those major points while preserving almost everything else. Why not make everyone a villain, right? Why not make it about Baby trying to basically kill or like, you know, get rid of in some way, silence, pay off all of these people, including Kevin Spacey, to be able to just kind of leave his life of crime and just live with Deborah all he wants, you know? Like, it's the idea that, you know, he might have some type of plan that requires his driving skills of some kind, or maybe he doesn't have a plan, maybe he's just winging it, but as long as he has a clear goal in mind, you know, it's not just leaving. Like, you know, because it's a passive goal. Not wanting something to happen to you is a passive goal. An active goal is having a path to it. So if the whole story would be about, you know, Baby's doing the last job, he gets, you know, blackmailed into doing it again and threatened into it, but as he comes back in, he's like, I'm gonna get out of this and this is how I'm gonna do it. You know, because I think what they did really well is a representation of this kind of ever-looming threat of somebody who lives a life of crime, which, you know, shows at the beginning and kind of middle of the film really well, and the unpredictable nature of it, and obviously the dangers that are present to you and everybody you love. So make it about that, you know, make Baby just kind of fuck the system and devise some really crazy way with driving, switching cars, using all these people who like help him out, and somehow manage to get out of this. And maybe he gets arrested in the end. Yet, like maybe the ending is still the same.
Better yet, how about this? So we see earlier in the film that Kevin Spacey, and this is what's so weird, is that we're expected to believe that Kevin Spacey at the end of the film is like this good guy, but throughout the film he threatens Baby's life, he threatens Deborah's life, and he brings his fucking nephew to do this like crime stakeout thing with Baby.
Yep.
Like his nephew, this kid. And so he's not a good guy, but we're expected to believe that he's this good-hearted person at the end of the film. It just doesn't make sense. So better yet, how about this? Okay, so Baby is Doc's nephew. Make it that. The parents, when they died, have Kevin Spacey's character adopt Baby. And then use him for heists. And then maybe like Baby's kind of just like, you know, he doesn't see a way out because he feels indebted to Doc, but also he doesn't want to be a part of this anymore because it's kind of like eating away at him and it's not what his parents would want for him, right? And then he meets Deborah, and then through the music and all that, maybe she reminds Baby of his mother or something like that. And then that's how they get their connection. And then, you know, they fall in love, and then Kevin Spacey finds out, threatens her, and then is like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to tear this shit down. Make it that. Yeah. That would have been so much better. Like, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, also for that twist to work better, that would definitely help. Like, you know, if Kevin Spacey's literally just kind of been around him and like was forced to adopt him and things of that nature, I would be buying the turnaround a little bit better. I think the reason why it felt so bad in the movie when he just has the turnaround in the elevator is because he's been established as a bad person. Like, we see him have some type of empathy. He's kind of nice to Baby. He's kind of nice to other people. He seems to be very kind of straightforward, get shit done kind of guy. But that is not enough, you know, to compensate for the fact that he's literally facitating bank heists.
And this is the biggest
and like, the male... Yeah.
This is
like,
the biggest flaw
it's messed up.
This is honestly, the Doc and Baby thing is the biggest flaw of the film. Because not only is it all of that Igor mentioned, but here's this. It broke the filmmaking rules. It broke the show don't tell. So we're supposed to believe that Baby and Doc have this intricate history together because Baby, like, stole from him or something like that. And we never fucking see it. We never see, not even a flashback. We just are supposed to believe that, like, he's indebted to me. And that's it.
Yeah,
we don't even see it. So we don't feel that relationship, and we don't understand why at the end maybe Doc would help him out. You know what I'm saying? Because the entire time we just think he's this, you know, is bad guy, but maybe in the beginning if they would have shown us that, maybe we could have seen a little bit more of humanity. As much as humanity as you're going to get from Kevin Spacey, but like,
you know, One could argue that, you know, Kevin Spacey talks about the fact that he got really inspired with the kid when he was trying to steal his like Mercedes Benz or something. Like he was trying to steal his car when he was, you know, a lot younger. Yeah. And that seemed like it inspired some type of this like parental thing in him.
Yeah.
But that's still not enough for me. Like, this motherfucker is still a criminal, and I want him to be the bad guy. Not because he is a bad guy, but because the plot tells me he's a bad guy. Yeah, yes. Like, you know, I'm not buying it. And, like, I think also, you know, to put it in contrast, which is, like, where the movie falls through with the rest of the villains, to me, the most kind of villainous guy was Fox. Like,
yeah, he was the best, you know, most believable bad guy. I like John Hamm, but at the end when he's like cartoonishly like Terminator trying to like find and go after and kill Baby and Deborah, it's ridiculous in a lot of ways. It's not because his acting is terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that was a little bit hammy. No pun intended. But like the most believable bad guy was Jamie Foxx, and he was the scariest one too because he was like unhinged and weird.
Doc, I'm available. I can take where he needs to go, get him home safe. No.
And then John Hamm is unhinged and weird, and I know they're all like not good people, but like this film suffered through like the Spider-Man 3 shit fest of like too many villains.
That is absolutely true. Yeah. I mean, it's not really the same thing because I feel like in Spider-Man 3 you could at least focus on one of them. Like,
at least
I think Venom
at least
was
they all had their time. This was so diluted.
Yeah.
I cannot believe you're making me praise how Spider-Man 3 and how they handled that shit. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Dude, I remember I watched Spider-Man 3 and I was like, this is actually pretty decent, but then I realized that I was beyond intoxicated while I was watching it. This movie just doesn't do it because, like, it can look better, it can have better acting and better cast and kind of craft it in a much more, like, precise way, I guess, in a much more deliberate way. But if, you know, if your storytelling is lacking this deliberation, then, you know, you're not going to fix it. Like, editing can only fix so much. Acting can only fix so much. Good cinematography. They can all only do so much.
Yeah.
Your film, first and foremost, is a story.
Writing is the most important part of filmmaking. If your script sucks, the film will not work. And I know I'm young. I don't care. Writing is the most important part of filmmaking. Your script has to be tight. You know what I'm saying? Because everything else could be fine, but it sticks out like a sore thumb if the writing sucks. You know? Honestly. And this isn't to say, here's the thing. I know we've been shitting on this movie for a while now. This is not a bad film. There's a difference between something like Baby Driver and something like fucking Transformers. Or
like something that doesn't work at all.
Or Suicide Squad, or Batman versus Superman. Or, what else sucks? Gotti.
I mean...
Or, you know, Birdemic, or, like, the fifth, like, Halloween movie, or I don't know.
You're spitting them out pretty fast. I don't think you need my help.
This film is a good film. Fundamentally, it's a good film. And I think what we're coming from is not like, this film sucks, because you'll see me shred films later on, like Suicide Squad, when he gets in them.
We will definitely do it next season.
But like, I think the saddest thing about this is that this film actually has so much potential, and I'm kind of disappointed. It's like a parent. When a parent tells you, "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed." It's like, okay, it's like the worst thing to hear, you know?
You know, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
For me, I think the movie had so much potential before I even got into the plot itself. That first scene, these first moments of the film, and the music, and the fact that everyone's robbing the bank and you're just watching the guy in the car. Yeah. Those are fresh ideas. This movie is full of them too.
Yes.
You know, the way they execute it with the cinematography and the shots and editing is brilliant. I do not think I've seen a single cut that didn't feel, not quite right, in the film. I feel like it was just flawless. And, when the music kicks in and you get these, musical elements where he walks around, he plugs in the headphones, I'm like, oh my god, this movie has, everything in it. High-speed chases, heists, shootouts, and it even has time for like musical numbers where it's like beautifully choreographed in this insanely dynamic long shots, and I love that shit. Like, this is the stuff I go to movies for.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful.
Yes.
It's just, I feel like the movie just can't decide which one of its own cool things it wants to be. Because not that you cannot be several things at once, you can absolutely mix and match genres all you want. But I think in Baby Driver specifically, this like bit of nuance is missing because movies all over the place cannot find its own kind of tune. And like, I think music kind of reflects it. Every song that plays is beautiful, and the way they tease them too. Like, you're excited to hear this music in the movie, but they're all kind of different genres. Like, you know, they're all slightly kind of approaching it from a different side. And not that I have, like, it doesn't make it a problem when it comes to music, but I think it becomes problematic with the story.
This film suffers through a style over substance syndrome. That's the biggest problem, because the style is like great and all, everything is fine. It's just that the substance and the true story of it lacks, and it's a little bit disappointing to see. And I know Edgar Wright's kind of a style director, like he's a very stylistic director in his comedies and all of that, but of his earlier work that I've seen, like Scott Pilgrim, the substance was actually there. It was actually really it was really well done. And I guess what kind of confused me about this film is that I feel like it didn't really know what it was trying to be. At moments it would be like a bit like a drama, and it got really kind of dark. And then other moments it was funny, then it was gory and bloody. And I know you can sample from all of these different things, but I just feel like it needed one centralized plot point instead of like 20 different like villains, you know, inconsistent characters and just all that kind of stuff. And it's really unfortunate because I actually do like this film. I do like it quite a bit, actually. It just suffers a lot. It's like, it's a bit of a mess, to say the least. It's a bit of a mess.
Yep.
It's not, now again, it's not an Emoji Movie mess. It's not a M. Night Shyamalan mess.
Oh my god,
It's
no!
not.
You made me think of the A movie, the one that we should not talk
It's not
about.
an Avatar mess. It's not that kind of mess. It's just a mess.
I think it's a hot mess. Like, it actually, like, this is the type of movie I would go to watch once. Not that I would not want to watch it ever again, I just feel like I got all it had to offer from that first viewing. And it was a good time. Like, I had a great time watching it. I actually think it's a beautiful film to go watch with friends, because you can just turn off your mind, lay back, and let it wash over you.
Yeah.
Because everything about this film that, like, you know, the aspects of film that bring you this instant gratification, like good cinematography, good editing, good music, good acting, screen presence, all that shit is there. It's present, and you get it. It's like, you know, it's like eating a cake, and it's really good, but like, you know, it's not the best cake you've ever had, but it's a goddamn cake. And, you know, you'll go for a cake, like, why not?
Well, I don't think there's much to say. We kind of shit on this movie
And redeemed it.
Picked it up, hugged it, shat on it again, hugged it, shat. It's like we're very bipolar with this.
It's a strange, abusive, bipolar perception of
it's
this
a weird
film.
abusive relationship that I have with this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that is our final season, folks.
Yeah, that's
ripping
the
a film to shreds. All right. Anyways, folks, if you liked the video, like it, subscribe for more, comment. You know, let us know what you thought, if we were wrong, all of that. Check out our social media, and we'll see you on the next season, folks, of Last Minute Movies.
Yeah, would love to. You know, would love to have a dialogue going. Honestly, we should have like a back and forth type thing. Like an episode that just features us talking to people and, you know, responding to comments. Because I feel like when we talk about these movies, and this one is definitely not an exception, we overlook a lot of things trying to just go to the meat, to the roots, to the problems, to the things that worked and didn't. We don't really dwell on the things that are kind of secondary but definitely worth mentioning. So yeah, like if you want to talk about this stuff, I am totally down to just have separate, like, smaller episodes where we just respond to the feedback about movies and, you know, just talk. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and, you know, if you have seen, if this is like the last episode of the season that you've binged, kudos. Thank you for
Yeah.
being here. Thank you for
Thank you
appreciating.
for being here, folks.